Welcome to the BWWP, Peace Place for Me video broadcast.
Welcome to Peace Place for Me, a virtual connection where the contagious love of Jesus Christ abides and thrives. We are an exclusive community purpose to enhance and expand spiritual and holistic growth to advance the kingdom of God. Thank you for joining us today as we enter a time of sharing with Pastor and Chaplain Tracy Mack in this virtual, interfaith inclusive, and purpose-filled community. Let's listen in.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Peace Place for Me, Peace Place for You, Peace Place for us. All of us, God's wonderful people. I don't care where you are, where you live, what you look like, where you're from. Peace Place is for us. Peace Place is a state of mind. It's not only where we gather today, but it's also what we get to become. We get to become places of peace. And here at Peace Place for Me, it's the ministry extension of my company, but it's also a Christ-conscious spiritual community, y'all, where we enhance and encourage everybody through education, spiritual education, through their relationship with God. And I'm just grateful for it, where I get to help edify, encourage, and educate. And the last time we got together with Peace Place, we talked about being picked, preserved, or picked, prepared, and preserved. We want those P's. And that when we talked about it from a standpoint of canning fruits or vegetables, we talk about picking that fruit when it's ripe, when it's most ripe, and preparing it, whether it be cutting, washing it, or gathering it. After you picked it, you get it together, you make preparation, and you cut it up. You may have to season it with something else. You may have to cook it a little, add some ingredients to get it just right before you. And even with the jars that you put the preserve in, they have to be sanitized, and that preservation, so that when you want something, you prepared it. You may have those strawberries or peaches or whatever in the summertime, or when their season is peaked. But then maybe one day in the wintertime, on a cold winter morning, you want a jelly biscuit with some fruit jelly on it or some preserves on it. It ain't nothing like having something perfect when it's out, supposedly out of season, because you did the preparation. And I'm still on a P word this morning, y'all, because the P word I'm on this morning is the word peace. The word peace. It's what the whole adjective, verb, function that I operate from, my life being a peace place, not just a company, not just the ministry arm of how I serve, not just but peace is what we really get to become. And I go back to that. I was reading this week in the book of Mark, if you want to look at that, chapter 4. In Mark chapter 4, Jesus is doing his good storytelling. I mean, because that's how the gospel was spread. He did it through stories, parables, as is mentioned in the Bible. But I don't think we understand the powerful aspect, or how powerful storytelling really is. Because when you tell somebody a good story, it gets to draw them in. And I don't know if I have a good story for you this morning, but in the story, we think about, when we talk about peace, I want to come from Mark chapter 4, in the latter part of the chapter. But before I get there, we've had some storms in our country. Those of us who live in the United States of North Carolina, we had some terrible storms that just destroyed parts of the city of Asheville, North Carolina. And last week, the state of Florida, a large part of the state of Florida, was getting ready to be jacked up by Hurricane Milton. He was supposed to come in as a Category 5, but things began to calm down, and I think most spots were hit at a Category 1. It doesn't mean that the damage was any less, or something that we should not be concerned about, but what it could have been would have been way much worse. And so growing up, a large part of my life in Eastern North Carolina, we lived in what I like to call Hurricane Alley. It felt like we were preparing for hurricanes all the time. And as it pertains to the last time we got together, the preparation how you prepare. You have your batteries, your flashlights, water. You fill up the tub with water. So people say, why do you fill up the tub with water? So you can flush the toilet. So you can pull water. If you should, lose that ability, you can flush the toilet. You can get water. You don't want to make that water what you drink, but what you need to take a bath. If you don't have what you don't get in the tub with that, but if you got to do what we used to call a cowboy bath because something's wrong with your pipes, if the storm messes your area up so bad and the water isn't clean, you've had some water saved in your tub, well, you can at least brush your teeth, wash your face, wash your body, and flush the toilet. I know a lot of times when they talk about storms coming, people run to the grocery store and they rate it, but you can tell an area where people are used to preparing for hurricanes because what's usually gone is the bread, the peanut butter and jelly, uh, the canned goods. A lot of that's gone, but in an area where people are not used to actually having to live through power outages and severe damage, oh, they're getting eggs and milk. And it's like, what you getting that for, sugar? If you lose power, you're in trouble. So you can really tell the difference. I remember my dad had these, the term may not be plexiglass. I can't remember what they were made out of. They were storm shutters, but you could see through them. Because a lot of times when you're preparing and you begin to board up your windows and people use plywood to board up the windows, you can't see out of the window. So him and his ingenuity and whoever created them had um, these what were they, plexiglass, whatever it was, to be storm. They were storm high rated for winds and rain, where we could still see out of the windows when the storm came. Not that you were standing near it, but it still allowed light to come into your home. And just in the preparation, because I said the last time, Jose Perez, Ambassadors for Christ, circa 1986, somewhere around that time, he preached a sermon that preparation is not lost time. And I want to submit to you today that having peace, taking time to steal away for peace is not lost time. And when I say in Mark chapter 4, like I said, Jesus was doing his good storytelling. I mean, it starts out in the first part of it, he's talking about the parable of the sower. How we sow seed, what goes in good ground, what the thorns come and choke out or whatever. And then he had to turn around and go in verse 10 and explain to the disciples. He was like, do y'all get this? I done just told this whole thing about the parable, but now I got to get y'all by yourself to explain it. And I don't think it was a way to insult their intelligence, but they had a relationship with Jesus where he felt they needed to understand. And the word is used in that the mysteries of the kingdom, the mysteries of some of these parables he shared. In verse 21, he talks about the lamp under the bushel, that parable. In verse 26, he starts talking about the growing of the seed. In verse 30, he talks about the parable of the mustard seed. And then he talks about the use of parables and how he spoke with parables. In verse 33, it says, with many such parables, he spoke to them as they were able to hear it. He did not speak to them except in parables, but he explained everything in private to his disciples. And where I want us to kind of flow from as it pertains to peace is in verse 35. And I'm going to be reading this out of the New Revised Standard. On that day, so he did all this on the same day. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, let us go across to the other side. And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in a boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great storm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was already in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And waking up, he rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be silent, be still. Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith? And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, Who is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Who is this? I don't know. Maybe if I brought it to today's terms, I don't know if they were being derogatory, but who is this? Were they in amazement? Or who does he think he is? He up there asleep. We had to wake his hind parts up because he probably would have slept through the storm. And sometimes in our lives, you can have so many things going on, and people think we're crazy because of the calm we have. In that particular verse, when Jesus said, "Peace and be still," that wasn't just a, you know, be calm. In the Greek word is sapeo or see. I've heard it pronounced two different ways. One is siopa, it's spelled Siopao, and it means to hush, properly mute. And it is involuntary, an involuntary stillness or an inability to speak. So it wasn't that Jesus was saying, ocean, wave, storm, be calm if you see fit. He said peace and be still with the authority that it did not have a choice. It was involuntary. So when we think about it in a weather pattern, or we're thinking about it in the terms of our lives, those things that go on in our lives that that just seem like they're storms, we get to speak peace. Just in our dictionary, peace has several different definitions. It can mean a quiet state of tranquility. It can also mean freedom from civil disturbance. It can mean a state of security or an order within community. It's the freedom to be disquietness or no more oppression. It means harmony in relationships, a state or period of mutual concord between governments, a pact or an agreement to end hostilities between those who have been at war. And peace is interjectionally to ask for silence or calm. Now, in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it said that peace, in the terms of where it's in the Greek, where I just explained to you, the involuntary, it said that is obsolete. But I want to resurrect that thing because when Jesus said peace in the Greek, he meant involuntary. You don't have a choice but to be quiet and be still in my presence. And I think that's the authority we need to take when it comes to things in our lives, because especially if you're anyone that's doing any kind of moving and shaking, I call it a whack-a-mole season where it's just stuff popping up all around. And sometimes we allow it. That Merriam-Webster dictionary where we have to have an agreement between the thing that's bothering us or the war that we're in with somebody where we go, you know what? If you agree and I agree, let's go ahead and have some peace. That's a peace treaty or a peace agreement. Well, I submit to you that when it comes to some things in our lives, we don't need to wait for an agreement. We don't need to wait for them to be like, okay, let's stop fighting for a little while. Sometimes it's just stop fighting for a little while so we can refuel. Or sometimes people will stop fighting for a little while just to get you in a posture where you're not, where you have retreated and you're calm and you're in garrison, and all of a sudden here they come and attack you. So I submit to you that even though in the Merriam-Webster definition of peace, where it's an intransitive verb to become involuntarily quiet or still, I think we need to resurrect that thing and begin to speak peace to our minds, our spirits, our bodies, our lives, our relationships, our finances, our plans, our goals, to speak peace in a way that you do not have a choice. You will be involuntarily silent. I'm not giving you a choice. You will be mute. You will have no authority in this place. I think sometimes we allow this mamby-pamby, or we let people think that the love we have for other people, that love is weak or that peace is weak. I say in my book of purpose and some other writings I've had that peace is far from weak. Peace enters a chaotic environment. And sometimes when peace enters a chaotic environment, they think it's chaos because they've been in so much turmoil that when peace enters a room, chaos has to be silent. So chaos is offended. It feels at harm. And I believe within myself, I know that there's some times, there's some places, there's some things we're dealing with in our world, in ourselves, in our families, that we don't need to wait for any type of peace agreement with anybody. We get to use the same peace that Jesus spoke to that storm and say, you know what? Shut up. Shut the hell up. Yeah. You don't get no questions here. You don't get any options. You don't get any benefits. This is not something we get to consider later. But right here, right now, shut up and be still involuntarily. And that may seem like, oh, Tracy Mack, you're being too harsh. Let me tell you something. Folks got problems coming at them all which way. I deal with people on a regular basis. People have been hurt. People have been abused. People have been scarred by government, by religious systems, by families. And let me tell you, we want to people have years of chaos. People have years of abuse. People have years of negative things that have happened in their lives. And we want to treat them with a mean solution. You want to give them 3 points in a poem? No, baby. You got to bring this thing where the rubber meets the road, and the peace has to overwhelm the chaos. You don't want to meet it even. Oh, I had this 30 years of chaos, and my solution for peace meets it even. No, you want to take it has to overwhelm it, overcome it, annihilate it, obliterate it till it no longer exists. That by the time you come in your peace place, in your spirit, soul, and body, your walking peace place, that I have had the experience over the past couple of weeks that by the time you tell your story that was chaos, that when people see your life in peace, they think you lie. Ain't nothing like having such a story of healing, a testimony of healing to the point where people think, oh, you got to be lying. You don't, not only do you not look like what you've been through, but everything around you, there's no recognition. Your life becomes unrecognizable, as Lisa Nichols used to say. That when you've had the peace, the healing, the I know someone on here. I hope you tell the testimony of a relative that was in a car accident, where the peace. I remember Jada some months ago was in a car accident. She was rear-ended. The brand new car was totaled. But there's no semblance of that. If we didn't show you the pictures, there would be no the peace, the healing, the wholeness. I did a whole workshop this past week on being healed, the journey from trauma to wholeness. Well, we don't look like what we've been through. Our finances don't look like we've been through that. If when I tell the definition of the hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills, if you look at my finances now and that girl's credit score, I ain't even gonna tell you because you might want to come borrow something. But when you look at there's no evidence of the chaos. There's no evidence of the storm. There's no evidence of the abuse, no evidence of the trauma. That to me, and it doesn't mean it didn't happen because you get to tell your story. I like to use the analogy, if I could, in my parable, in my attempt to tell a parable. I look at my life and I think of everything I've gone through and the ways that God has used my life that it was shared with me. I used to say, God, why have I gone through so much? Why have I gone through the hell and the high water? Why have I had the physical illnesses, plural? Why have I had the surgeries, the sexual assault? Why have I had family dysfunction? Why have I had? Because you get to a place, Tracy Mack, where when anybody who needs healing, because my healing attracts those who need to be healed, not that I heal them, but that I remind them of the healer that already lives in them. And then I get to maybe assist them on their journey to discover that because I can't heal nobody, but I can direct you by my testimony. So somebody said, Tracy Mack, the reason why you've gone through all of these things is so when people come to you and they've gone through similar things, I never want to say I know how you feel, but I know how that feels. So let's unwrap your experience. But I get to do much like what you see behind me for those who are watching. The books that are on these shelves. I don't carry the pain. I don't carry the trauma. I don't carry the dysfunction. But once I've been healed from it, I put it almost like a book on these shelves. And when I come in somebody's presence who needs maybe to hear that testimony, I get to pull it like a book from the shelf, open it up, read them. I have no emotional attachment to it. If I cry, I'm crying with them, happy tears. I am not tied to it. It don't hurt. The scar doesn't hurt anymore when I touch it or when I let them touch it. And that's the peace that surpasses all understanding, that guards our hearts and mind. When the scripture says, I will keep you in that perfect peace whose mind is stayed. Where's your mind? Is your mind in a peace place? If not, we can help you get there in community. That's where we assist one another and reminding one another of the healer that lives within. So I just want to encourage you to, and when you're being picked, preserved, prepared, all of that, it's all because to get us to that place of peace. And it's not because it's a place where we are new to. It's the place we've always been. The God in us has always been in us. So I just want to make sure that you understand and know that when you say peace be still, don't give it a choice. It's a command. Involuntarily has to sit down and shut up, or like old folks used to say, go somewhere and sit down. And say it in a way that it doesn't have any fuel to resurrect to bother anybody else. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, if you don't, we're going to talk about it in Peace Place. But anyway, I'm Tracy Mack. I'm grateful and I love y'all for real. Much love and peace.
Thank you for listening to Peace Place for Me, a place of peace for you. On behalf of Pastor and Chaplain Tracy Mack, we hope you enjoyed today's sharing and the blessed time spent together. We want to express our gratitude in advance for the generous gifts you have chosen to share for the benefit of our community. We hope to fellowship with you the next time we come together on 2nd and 4th Sundays, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For access to join our virtual meetings, email us at peace@blackwomensworld.com. That is, peace@blackwomensworld.com. Or visit our website at peaceplaceforme.com. Until next time, peace and blessings to you.